Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Keith here, hanging out with Jared tonight again. We're going to be working on a new project, starting of a new project tonight. The ProLine Beams kit finally came in. It's the twin I-beam front end. It's got a nice trailing arm rear end set up to it, and you pretty much just take a donor SCX10 version 1 or version 2 chassis, install the kit, and then you've got a dope-ass pre-runner. So there's probably a few steps in between and a few parts needed in between there to make that all work. But anyhow, we grabbed a selection of parts today from Eliminator RC. We got some Vanquish outer C-hubs because we don't have a front axle, and pretty much the only parts you need are your front outer C-hubs. So what am I saying, C-hubs? They're knuckles. Your front outer knuckles for the SCX10 too, and you'll need some bearings for those. Luckily we have a good selection, so we're not too worried about that. You'll need a transmission. We went with an axial 3-gear. This is probably a 10-year-old transmission we had kicking around. It did have a broken output shaft on the front, and we only need one on the rear, so that will work. Yep. You'll notice there's no motor plate on it, so we also ordered a Vanquish motor plate, which comes with a nice motor guard, so that will button up in there nicely. And if you remember to the video we just put out last, or a few videos ago, depending what order this one goes out in, we stole that Outcry system out of that Miller race buggy there when Jesse and I were working on that. So we're gonna throw the stock motor in the garbage because it is horrible, and we're gonna actually replace it with a 4,000 kV HPI vector motor. And if it blows up the ESC, that's no problem because we're gonna not use it for anything anyway, and then we'll put something better in it. But it should be okay, 2-wheel drive. We'll figure out what happens from there. The twister servo from that unit we will not be using, and we're gonna use the Dumbo RC radio that came with it. No, we were gonna use the Dumbo RC radio, but we couldn't bring ourselves to use that junk, so we found a old SR200 receiver. We'll find a radio we can bind that to that old radio, or hopefully it will bind to the new DX5. There's no reason why an old receiver should not bind to a current radio. If it says Spectrum, it should bind. So let's hope that works. Again, we bought the chassis, or we had the chassis, missing some parts, kicking around, and we didn't have any axles, so we bought the Vanquish F10 straight rear axle kit, and we're going to use that. It looks really good. It's trussed in the back. It's going to be perfect for the build. What do I miss? Basic parts, don't really matter. Hexes, pins, little assortment of parts you'll need. Oh, shocks. So the kit's kind of based around 90mm shocks, so we went with the 90mm. We'll call these what we found in our parts bins. They're actually pretty nice G-made RSD 90mm shocks, and they're not leaking even sitting in the bag for a couple months. There's no oil or anything in there, so G-made are good shocks in that way, so those would be great on the truck. Plus we have 2 of the OG axial plastics, and they're still holding oil too, so nice and squishy. So we got 6 really good shocks to start with the truck, so that will be pretty dope. Oh yeah, we also picked up the Hot Racing 90mm limit straps for the truck. We got 2 sets of 2, so we could put those 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and we can limit that exactly where we want. I have a funny feeling these guys will probably run somewhere up the trailing arm, but we'll figure that out when we go. The only thing you're going to need is your upper rear links. We don't have those handy. I'll find out the measurement by measuring one of the many other SCX10-2s we have, and Jared and I will dig those out and go from there. Now, front bumper, I had a very nice OG Honcho front bumper. I think you can still get them now, so we might try to get the Honcho front bumper, or we have this short course bumper from Lossy, or Lossy, or Lossy? Uh-oh. I always say it wrong. Either way, it's one of those. We're going to put this on there, maybe. I don't know. It probably takes some work. We'll have to probably build a mount and a plate to kind of separate and hold those apart, because obviously there's not much to mount to, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Some cool stuff mounted up to the body because we are going to run ProLine's 93 Ford Ranger body, and it is very high in the front. This is another option. I can't remember the name of this one. It was a Trail Ready or something like that. It's the ones from the 69 axial Blazer. Yeah, the black one.
Blazer.
Yeah, but like it sits low like that. The front of the bottom of the headlights on the ProLine body sit like up here. There's like almost an inch gap between the frames, so we do need to have a bumper to come up to fill that up to the edge of the bumper line. This would be nice. Give it a nice cut on the front, so maybe we can make something work. We'll probably end up cutting this up and not being able to use any of it, but we'll figure that out when we go down that path. But anyhow, we're gonna get everything cleared off, get this ready. This chassis is used. I did pick this up from one of my friends at ProNoobRC. He was nice enough to sell it to me for a great price, so we're gonna start with this as our bones for our build, if you would. So I'm gonna also check the parts bin and see if we have a spool for the bottom end. I know that these stock ones, if it's already broken on that side, it's not short, you know, it's not going to last too long. On this side it was a weak spot. You can see, we'll show you a little close up later how the casting kind of broke off around it. There's a hole in the middle where there shouldn't be. It should be solid across there, right? So we'll get to see through there, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to see if I have a solid lower and a full metal gear for it in my parts bin. And yeah, we'll pop back in a few seconds here once we get this cleaned up and once we open up this beams kit, and we'll start talking about that instead of the project at hand. Okay guys, now to talk about the reason for this project is the new ProLine beams kit, the independent front, classic Ford styled independent beams cross-arm pre-runner desert truck suspension thing with trailing arms. So anyhow, I'm going to get the box open and show you guys right here. The most important part is not the parts inside, is a little tag on the top that tells you to scan me for the instructions video link, which should take you over to the YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure it does. I've already watched the video they posted up upon release of the kit, how to install it, so go check that out. Inside the box you get two bags, front and rear. We had to refilm this part of the video because we had a technical issue, so the bag's already open and we're just doing a quick overview again. This is the rear bag. We didn't open this one. It basically has a radio tray and your trailing arms and some mounts to drop the trailing arms below the chassis. We'll show you that when we get that installed. And for the front you get the new shock towers with the mounts for the crossover beam type suspension on either side of the frame, like so. Very nice stuff. You get a bag of all the hardware, all the rod links and steering links, and steel, everything you need to make everything work. Now we're going to go and watch that video like you should do, and we're going to come back here once we're done watching the video like you should do, and then we'll start to customize and make it our own style from there. But basically, get your slider, get it together, and then we'll see you back here when it's time to make them better. Okay guys, there we go. We've got now some changes you'll see in the front. We had those RSD shocks for mock-up and such, and we played around. We wanted to find something soft. We ended up just going with the OG axial 90 mil. There's a variety of different spring rates out there already available, and then we took off the spring on the RSD shock and the shock collar, put a heavier 50 weight oil in there, and a 90 millimeter limit strap right there. So it looks really good. Nice clean setup. Now, limit straps, you want to make sure you put a spacer behind the top of it to keep it from rubbing on the body and pushing things all funny, so everything still is happy and sits in there, right? You want to do that top and bottom so the strap is out beside it, not binding up on there. So, or you can also mount it somewhere else from here down to the arm if you want. You don't actually have to have it on the shock, but that's kind of the preferred method and where they should be used. But anyway, enough of that. So yeah, we've got it riding really nice. Once we get some weight on there, it's going to sit right where we want it. It's going to have a good flow to it. I believe it has the white springs in there right now. I think like green or something is lighter or something. I think there's like one more lighter color. So we'll check that one out. While I was pissing around with that, Jarod went ahead and rebuilt an really old 3-gear axial transmission. I think it was probably out of the original AX10. So he rebuilt that up. We loaded that up with some new bearing kit and ProNoobRC udder butter. Cleaned everything up. Still great. We put a Vanquish motor plate on it with a nice Vanquish, what do you call that? Spur gear. Yeah, spur gear cover. Jarod also tossed a Reefs 444 servo in there with an NSD-RC monster servo horn and buttoned up the steering on the front end so we can move on to the body. At this point right now, we are playing around with a couple shock keys to kind of get our extra rear shock in the rear. We're going to strip down the RSD, mount it just like we have 2 in the front. We want 2 in the rear. We're going to utilize both those holes. So we have to make some few adjustments with our shock keys that we have. See those there. We got 2 types to mess with. We have, I don't know what you would call that. This one's been through some crap, like it's all wallowed out, so might not. Yeah, we probably won't use those. I don't know what the heck happened to them. But yeah, we're probably gonna bolt these guys in so we can move another shock over here and maybe cut off one of these extra tabs on the top, or cut the bottom tab off and see whichever's going to work. We'll probably be cutting the bottom off, I think, and rising up. So anyhow, we'll throw that on there. We'll come back and tell you what we did to figure that out. It'll be a bit of playing around, but I think that's going to work. Move that one shock hole forward and mount the other one. We're going to quickly get the body mounted. Now with the body, with the shock towers and the destructions that come with it, with their new battery tray that goes in the back, you do have to move your shock towers forward, and they just don't fit the standard Pro line body where they have that recessed lifted part up. You're actually, well it does, these guys just sit at the edge of it, so you actually will have to open up a little bit in the front, especially if you want to do the double shocks. So everything should look pretty clean in there. We'll have another shock head sticking up here and one sticking up here. It'll look pretty cool, and we can get everything mounted pretty nice on there. Yeah, we're yet to cut out the wheel wells and mount up the over fenders. We're going to quickly get our body mounted, and then we're going to come back, take off the fenders, mark everything out, and then go strip it all down and paint it. Anyhow, I'm going to get those mounted up. We'll see you back in a few seconds, show you what we came up with and how we executed that plan, and then we'll move on to quickly button up the electronics and the body. Okay, there you go, guys. We have the body mounted on the chassis, looking good. Used all the experience in the house of all 3 of us to get this thing lined up perfectly. It's squatting right in there. We've got it lined up perfectly. I was worried about the body and the wheel, the alignment at first. It fits perfectly. It's a good fit, great fit. Now we need to come back, cut out the fenders so we can put over fenders on, but when you're doing this, you're going to want to cut out the wheel well so it matches the size of the tire so you can get your alignment proper. That way, if you have a huge wheel well, it's going to be tough to make sure you've got it centered perfectly. So do it this way first, and then cut them out and put your over fenders on. And you really don't need them. It's just definitely going to look a lot better, and it's going to fit our build when we put them on there. So another quick thing that you're going to have to do is put a brace across the top of these shock towers. They are made out of black licorice, and they were just folding in. Like, we were looking at the screws for our shocks, and they were starting to point up at like a 20-degree angle or 30-degree angle. They're getting pretty steep. These guys are actually pushed right in. The body posts were leaning in, and the shock bodies are almost touching the chassis. So we found a link that is
3 mil thread.
Yeah. So we're using 80mm link across there. It's actually a little bit short. We used a couple spacers, but overall we achieved an 80mm distance, and what that does is it squares and straightens everything up, so your shocks are running nice and true up and down. They're no longer bound up. Your body posts are true and straight, and that also is going to prevent your body post from going in and out as your shock towers flex when you go off-road and making it sound like a seal. I think that's what we decided it would sound like.
Yeah.
Should we,
clapping.
add the sound effect in here. So yeah, we didn't want it squeaking and humming, so it's solid down the front end. Like, that's a nice solid piece in the front end. Don't look at the tires, don't look at those. But everything else is solid in the front. Now we're going to move on to the back. We're going to get it looking great. We're going to do the shock treatment. I'm going to go break that body down while Jarod and Jesse figure out what we need to do to get these in there, everything flowing, where we need to cut these, probably paint these black so it matches with everything else. And we'll come back with the final update of how that is all working and flowing together. Then we're going to put some power to it. And then tomorrow we are going to weld up a... Wait, is tomorrow Friday? No, Friday we're going to weld up a nice big steel bumper for the front, but we'll put that into next week's video for that one. So, okay guys, completely stoked on the way this has turned out. Way better we could imagine for a bunch of hobbled together parts, plus that ProLine Beams kit. The wheels are the Vanquish Wheels of Fortune, if you guys are wondering. I don't think you can buy the gloss bronze. I might be wrong on that, but those are the Wheels of Fortune. They look absolutely amazing. So anyway, we're going to call this the end of this video, pretty much the build portion of the truck, as now we went from that pile of parts to a truck. I'm going to pick up doing the flares, the paint, and the front bumper in the next video on this, plus a little bit of ripping action outside. It is winter, so we'll find somewhere we can go rip around.
Just gonna do donuts.
Yeah, just gonna hoon around a bit, but we'll try to find somewhere, maybe some grass or something. We got some warm weather still kind of holding out and coming in, but let's take a look under the shell really quickly. I was just working on cutting out the headlights to put in the bezels. It's a very cool scale body. The proportions are actually pretty good on it too, and it looks really good. Like, Rangers with beams on the front just look amazing. I always just love the look of that. The top here, you can see we got the shock tower keys, or those shock keys pushing through to hold our front shocks in. And we've got 2 shocks each corner, so we're running 8 shocks under there now, kind of what we wanted for that pre-runner. Look, it's got a really nice flow to it. Everything's just great. These are the, I believe, G-Made RSD 90mm shocks. Nice big fat shock shaft on them, and they just flow really nice. 90mm axial. We're going to get a bunch of different springs. We can play with the spring rate. Everything is just great. Loving it. Came out great. Suspension with our limit straps. Everything kind of stops where we want it to, and everything travels perfectly. Absolutely loving it. What was that? That's pretty much all we wanted to show them under there? I think so. Yeah. 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 Put some limit straps on it, guys. Don't break your shocks. You don't really need them, but especially with that many shocks, I don't think you'll need them. But they look cool anyway, so they're more just for scale look at this point. Yeah, so we're also thinking we're going to do a stadium truck racing series this summer coming up. If you guys are local and interested, give us a holler. Once we get this truck done, we're going to try a few different motor combos in it. Figure out some motor and gearing combos so it's, not absolutely ridiculous, and then we'll go from there. Maybe we can get talking, we can get some rules set up, and actually build some wooden cheese lock wedge kickers and actually get out and do some racing. Jarod's going to build one. Of course, Jesse's going to build one. A couple of other friends are going to build one. So if you guys are interested and you're local, grab one, build it. If you're not local, you should build one too. And take your buddies and go race. All you need is some wood and set up in a parking lot and go burn off some crawler tires. It'd be a great time. So I'm going to shut up. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for Jarod to come over for the last couple days, and it's a couple hours trip each way for him. So he's come and giving me a hand on that. Jesse's working his ass off with his Christmas schedule, his supply and demand. So yeah, we will see you guys next week. Cheers.